we now turn to the questions we're collecting from you in the audience, and we'll start with the first question, and I'm going to have you respond pretty much in the reverse order. So we'll start at this end and go on that way. Future questions will jump around a bit more, but we'll start this way. And the question for each of you, and you will have up to a minute and a half to respond. What do you see as the role of the board versus the role of the superintendent? And I think the question is, what is the line between board role versus superintendent? And we'll start with you, Mr. Cabrera.
Yeah, the role of the board is specifically to set, policies and broad-based visions for the district, and the role of the superintendent is specifically to implement those procedures and implement the plan that is broadly set by the board. Getting into more detail, the board is certainly going to be directly involved in gathering public input and ensuring that the public's point of view is represented within the ideas of the planning and implementation, and then the superintendent is responsible for educating the board on what is going on side within the administration of the Palo Alto Unified School District, because it's very difficult to get that information otherwise. From there, one of the most important roles of the board obviously is to evaluate and hire and fire the superintendent, and so that is extremely important. I think I'll end there. It's just a brief overview. I'm sure other candidates will get into more details, but I feel like one thing that the board isn't is the board is not a top-down, whatever the board says is implemented at any individual school. The board just doesn't have that power. The board is one decision maker within a community of decision makers that has to work together collaboratively to build decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Carrillo. Same question to Ms. Godfrey.
Thank you. Well, Jay, can't say I disagree with you. That sounds like what I would think the difference between a board and superintendent is as well. I might say it as the board is here to represent the community. We're an elected body, and we are, the school is our community asset, so our job is to represent the community and take care of that community asset. We set policy, strategy, and set tone. We manage the resources, which would be, make decisions around budget and resources like that. And we manage, as you said, the superintendent. So the relationship between the board and the superintendent is the board's the boss. The superintendent takes those actions and goes and implements them. I think sometimes in the community, because there's one superintendent and 5 board members, people sometimes defer to the superintendent because it's easier and there's only one of him. But in fact, there's 5 board members, and that's just a little messier to deal with. So that's all I would add to Jay's description.
Thank you. Ms. Barney.
And you're going to keep getting incremental description as you move along, but I think that the main difference is one of oversight. The board has oversight in terms of administrative oversight, judicial oversight. It has oversight over the budget. And the board gets to ask questions in terms of what the superintendent is doing in achieving the vision that has been set. I'll stop there.
Thank you. Mr. Darwin, are you perhaps will add to this information?
I would focus on the role of the board in linking the work of the school district to the community's desires and values around education, and it does that primarily through 2 things. First, setting goals so that it's clear what this organization should be trying to achieve, and then second, producing accountability. That is setting the metrics and expectations against which the community can judge whether or not this school district is really achieving the goals that it has set for the district through its elected board members. And I think a good superintendent really welcomes that. A good superintendent wants clear goals, and a good superintendent wants accountability because he or she wants to demonstrate that, that he really is executing against the goals that the board has set. In order to do that, we need a board that is independent of the superintendent and that exercises the kind of oversight that Gina talked about. We don't need a board that is acting essentially as senior staff members of the organization, because there are plenty of senior staff members who are well-trained in education. We need a board that is exercising oversight with clear goals and clear metrics against the desires that the community has expressed for its schools.
Same question, Ms. Foster.
There's very little to add once you four people go through a question like that. But I think it's a very important one, and I think that it's one that is important for the community to have clarity on, and the way that the accountability works. The school district is designed to serve the students and be accountable to the community. And one of the ways in which that happens is accountability flowing up through the school board, which are the elected members, where you really have the ability to directly influence, as a community member, who is going to be leading and setting overall direction. I think it's also important to note that while the goal that there needs to be clear communication between the board and the superintendent on the goals, the strategic plan in many ways is their joint work. And it's very important for them to have that same, to each have ownership of that. And for the school board members to be able to really push and inquire of the superintendent when they need information from the superintendent to request of staff in order to find out how we're doing with respect to our goals.
Thank you. We don't have the superintendent here to give his or her response to that.